Hello and welcome to another edition of Mailbag. What is Mailbag? Well, Mailbag is a feature of the channel where you guys leave lots of comments on the channel and I attempt to answer those comments, or if I can't answer those comments, I throw it out to you guys who have more knowledge on some of this stuff than I do. So let's get into the first mailbag of this session. Remember, like, comment, subscribe to the channel. Go over to Instagram and follow me there. Go over to Facebook, follow me there. That's where the normal notices are. And consider becoming a Patreon. Next comment or question comes from the Deathbeat official in response to Roland D110 SysX factory file Korg new workstation keeping the Korg Kronos concept. And Gary, who is the Deathbeats, writes, in regards to the Korg, I've only ever owned one of their synths, which is the EX800. However, I recently bought their VST collection, which has some really nice synths, including the MX1, and their version of the ARP Odyssey, which I have to sounds completely different from the other popular emulations, such as the Arturia version, which I also own. Korg's version is able to recreate a very specific talky zappy bass sound, which is popular in the drum and bass right now, and I've been able to make it with. I've not been able to make it with any other synths, not even Massive or Pigments. So I find it very interesting that Korg have nailed that sound. Well, they did make the synthesizer. Anyway, something interesting that I've noticed about Korg is that they recreate some really nice VST synths and will release them with no promotion. They recently added 2 new wave table synths to their VST collection. The sound is amazing, but they didn't even do a mail out or a video on what's been going on with the Nautilus. On YouTube to announce their release, as far as I can see. Bearing on what's been going on with the Nautilus, it suggests they might be completely unorganised and unfocused. Cheers. I'm going to pick up on that last sentence, unorganised and unfocused. You may have hit the nail on the head. Or is there complete method in their madness? Korg have just launched the Nautilus AT, which was an aftertouch version of the Nautilus, which in my opinion should have really been a feature of the original keyboard from launch. We've no idea why they dropped the aftertouch functionality from the Nautilus. Nobody can really justify that. That just reinforces the fact that the ball was dropped with the Korg Nautilus. By the way, I'm not knocking the Nautilus, as even with its perceived issues, it is still one hell of a workstation. Yeah, don't get me wrong on that. I'm not bashing the Nautilus, because it is one hell of a workstation. The problem with the Nautilus is the Kronos. That's the problem. It's not the Nautilus is a bad workstation, because it's not. The problem is the Nautilus is the Kronos. That's simple. But what we've been observing is that Korg has been increasing the reach of its VST suite. Roland have been banging the drum about the Roland Cloud for a few years now, with access to a wide range of legacy synths through this platform and the ability to download these engines onto the Roland Phantom, Jupiter X, Juno X keyboards. As you pointed out, Korg hasn't been banging the drum about the VST platform, as it has been quietly releasing VSTs of legacy synths like the Korg M1, which, like you have to say, are pretty slick recreations of their keyboards. So going back to unorganised and unfocused statement, is this prelude to a new flagship workstation? Are they testing demand for this type of product? And that's a really good question. You know, they've been very tight-lipped about what the future of Nautilus is, but Korg always are. You know, so don't get me wrong. You know, they were very tight-lipped. Kronos was only brought to market early because a lot of stuff leaked. But they always have been quite tight-lipped about what is the next workstation concept they're going to bring to market. And I do wonder whether this slow increase of VSTs in the Korg product is a prelude to them doing something very akin to the whole Roland Phantom engine concept. Anyway, Gary wrote back and said, in regard to the Roland versus Korg VSTs, I have to say that Korg are winning in terms of sound quality. Now, I don't use the Korg VSTs, I have to be honest. I don't really use the Roland SoundCloud VSTs, apart from to download the engines onto my Jupiter X and download other stuff onto my System 8, for argument's sake. I don't tend to use them other than that, because I prefer to play them on the synth, not play them through the computer. And we go back to this, and their quality of their synth user interfaces. I've purchased a number of synths from Roland Cloud, including the SH101 and the JX3P, and I've also tried out the 303 and the 909, etc. My issue with the Roland Cloud synths is that something isn't quite right with the render quality of the audio. The average person is not going to notice this, but at the risk of sounding elitist, I'm finding that on some occasions, while working on the mixdown, that the Roland synths have trouble sitting in the mix properly, as something happens to the sound, as if it's reacting badly to other instruments in the track. This can easily be fixed by replacing them with better analog replicas by other manufacturers such as the D16 Group or Togo Audio Line, etc. For anyone interested, I would have to compare this issue to the early versions of Reason that squashed sounds together and somehow blurred the lines between each instrument, whilst making everything sound small and muddy. So far, I've not had this issue with any of the Korg instruments, all of which sound pristine. Cheers. Now, I think that's a really good point, Gary being a professional producer. And, you know, I suppose the majority of what I would call bedroom musicians probably wouldn't know this. They probably don't have the sound setup or the setup to allow them to hear it. You know, to hear this sort of stuff, you know, people who work in the industry have monitors. Some of them have multiple different manufacturers' monitors, so they can hear the mix in different ways. And it allows them to listen to individual parts of the track and how the tracks interact with each other, and whether they do have a line or not. And this is something that really comes out. So, you know, maybe they are good for the masses, but not good for the elite, the producers, the top end stuff. Maybe they need something else.